Chapter 14, You Think He Can Afford Me? Young Master Yun was greeting all of Su Cheng's ancestors, but when he saw those friends of his were all brought into the jail cell as well, a strange sense of admiration actually rose from the depth of his heart, and he looked at Su Cheng as if he was looking at a madman. About a dozen people were detained behind the same bars and someone fiercely shouted at Su Cheng, "You brat, you are done for." Su Cheng was just sitting by the desk and writing the report for tonight, too lazy to be bothered. This group of rich heirs was experiencing this type of treatment for the very first time. Not only did they get talked back to by a little patrol officer and beaten up by him, but they were also now all locked up together in a cell that was no bigger than the bathroom they had back at home. A dozen grown men were all crowded in one place, they could not be more pissed at the moment. There were still bloodstains in young Master Yun's nostrils as he coldly said to Su Cheng with his hand gripping hard at the iron bars, "Do you know what you are doing?" Su Cheng was still writing his report as he replied impatiently, "It should be me asking, do you know what you were doing? You broke the law." "Young Master Yun, I want to see your bureau's director." "Sorry, it's in the middle of the night." "They are already off work and went home," Su Cheng replied. "Why did you confiscate our phones?" Someone sneered, "If you have the audacity to detain us, are you still scared that we will call people and give you trouble? You should behave like people who were arrested, not like you are out partying and playing on your cell phone. Once you are released, all of your personal belongings will be returned to you." After Su Cheng finished talking, he put on his hat, fixed himself up a bit, and went out on a patrol, leaving the rich heirs throwing a tantrum in the small cell. Su Cheng did go on patrol as if nothing happened, but Zhang Ruyan and the others were all panicking, no longer in the mood to patrol at all. When they came back to see all the rich heirs inside the jail cell, they didn't know how to react, because Su Cheng just took the keys and left. "Release us, my patience is limited," young Master Yun sneered as he coldly looked at Zhang Ruyan and the others. Zhang Ruyan didn't know what to do, and a colleague was about to call their director before getting stopped by Zhang Ruyan. "Why are you calling the director? If I don't and these heirs' parents start giving us trouble, things won't end well for all of us." Zhang Ruyan replied, "Just pretend that we don't know a thing." The other colleagues' eyes were wide open. "What? But there are this many heirs. So what?" Zhang Ruyan replied, "Su Cheng did something I had been wanting to do for a long time, or were you guys enjoying how these spoiled brats were treating us?" The other three colleagues hesitated for a second, and then they nodded at each other as they exchanged a look. "Old Zhang, this isn't your usual style." Someone looked at him and said as he had a bit of difficulty understanding Zhang Ruyan's decision. Even Zhang Ruyan himself smiled at his decision. This city has been prosperous, and it is the businesses that brought this city to such a height. They do deserve to be treated favorably, but that doesn't mean they can stomp over our dignity. Let's just leave this matter to be, and we can also take this chance to show those young masters that we patrol officers have our integrity as well. The other three colleagues gritted their teeth and nodded, deciding not to attend to this matter anymore. Paper can't contain fire, the bureau director received calls from the dozen heirs' families on the next day. It was in the early morning when he turned on his phone that he realized that his missed call count had exploded from all the people calling. He arrived at the bureau right away and saw all the faces in the cell. "What happened?" the director asked the officer on duty. "Director, they were arrested by Su Cheng last night, here's the report." The officer on duty was also a bit dumbfounded. He just started the shift and was still trying to comprehend everything too, and he couldn't say much else other than hand over Su Cheng's report. The director took a glance then said, "Open the door, let them go." According to the report, these people insulted and assaulted police officers, but they were already detained for the whole night. It should be enough for these rich heirs. Then, the officer on duty said awkwardly, "Su Cheng took the keys too." The director was speechless. Looking at the bunch of young heirs that were deep asleep like pigs, he pouted, "Call him over to open the door." On the other hand, this main character Su Cheng was already snoring like a pig at home after he got off the shift. When the calls finally woke him up, he irritatedly got up and looked at the time. It was just noon. After he freshened himself up and put on some clothes, he got out of his room and was just in time to catch sight of that flight attendant that was coming out from another room with messy bed hair. She was only in a loose wool robe with her shoulders exposed, giving off a lazy yet sexy feel. The woman's first reaction to seeing Su Cheng was the widening of eyes. She probably wasn't awake enough to remember the fact that she now lived under the same roof as another man, and before she could open her mouth, Ran Jing, who came back to make lunch, opened the door and came in. Then, at that instant, all three of them met eyes, and after a full 3 seconds, the two women both spoke in unison, "I'm not related to him at all, don't take it the wrong way." Then, the two women both paused for a second and then said in unison again, "You must be his girlfriend." After speaking, both women were dumbfounded. Ran Jing thought to herself, "What was I thinking? How could someone like Su Cheng find a girlfriend?" But then when she saw how the woman in front of her was pretty and dressed so revealingly, she thought the woman was an escort Su Cheng ordered, and her eyes immediately showed disdain for this beautiful flight attendant. This beautiful flight attendant immediately sensed it, and she got angry right away. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Ran Jing didn't say anything, and she casted a look of disgust towards Su Cheng. "No wonder you are single, you even have the fetish of keeping them overnight." She left these words as she went into the kitchen. Clearly, she already assumed that this beautiful flight attendant was an escort. Miss Flight Attendant was immediately pissed. "What do you mean? Are you just assuming I'm the same profession as you?" Ran Jing gave her some attitude and said, "The sun's already up, you should probably go now." The flight attendant was about to run up and fight with Ran Jing when Su Cheng hurriedly got between the two and smiled bitterly, "Why do you women always think so quickly, where are your minds at already?" He then looked at Ran Jing and said, "You misunderstood, this lady's also a tenant, just like you." Ran Jing's big eyes blinked a few times, and the flight attendant snorted with her arms crossed. "Sorry, my bad," Ran Jing smiled and ultimately apologized. The flight attendant still spoke in a mocking tone, "Have you ever seen an escort as beautiful as me? You think he can afford an escort of my level?" Su Cheng was rendered speechless. This beautiful lady in front him does have a big mental deficit, she really did just describe herself as a prostitute. Immediately, he coughed and said, "Hypothetically, if you are, what's your price going to be then?" A high heel was thrown over right away. "I'm going to kill you. I didn't even deal with you yet."